Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode in this series. So, about light workers and healing, and we are going to be talking about why is it so hard for light workers to charge more. We did cover a little bit of this in spiritual entrepreneurs, and how they have to create mindsets around money to be able to charge more. But we're talking about light workers specifically and why certain light workers have an issue with charging for their healing work, specifically for their healing work. So I do want to get into it. I do have 3 points I want to make here. So before we get into it, so there's a lot that we can get into right now. I have seen so many places and so many different places about why do light workers feel guilty about charging for their healing work. It's a very common block, mindset block, shadow aspect that I see in so many of my clients. Charging a lot feels dirty. I can't charge for this because everyone should have access to it. Charging extraordinary amounts of money just seems like a lot. All of these limiting beliefs around it. You can be a light worker that transforms lives and still still charge your worth and still charge your worth. And if you have like an issue with this, I really want you to start looking at your shadow aspect of all of this. A lot of us have healer wounds. A lot of you, and a lot of us, I would say a lot of us, because this is a collective belief. A lot of us have, I would say, a witch wound, a healer wound in us where we feel like we cannot charge our worth. And it's very much a self-worth issue that probably goes back to generations. You may have, and I'm not going to say that this happened to everybody, but I know it happened to me, so I'm going to speak for myself here. This, when I went into a hypnosis, a past life hypnosis session on why do I feel like, where do a lot of these things kind of stem from? Where do a lot of these things stem from? And a lot of my beliefs stem from, and they do stem from the fact that I was not burned at the stake. I felt like, in my past life regression, I did die young. I died around 34 or something like that at that, which in those times probably would have been considered old age. But I do remember not being beaten, I'm going to try to censor myself as the best I can here, SA'd quite a bit in that life because of the gifts that I had. And I'm not going to say that this is for everybody has this, right? I'm not going to say everybody has this, but this is what I've had, and in these groups that I was in these masterminds I was in, it seems that a lot of people had a very similar issue. And it is because there was a wound there where we're afraid of speaking our true voices and charging them for it because, of whatever. We feel like our gifts don't have as much value we don't have as much value as other people do, or we feel like whatever about it. Sacred work must be sacrificial, and all this generational martyrdom and that we might have, and all of this stuff. They're limiting beliefs. They're limiting beliefs into the actual work. I did talk a little bit on Monday about why it's important. Why is it important for us to not spiritually bypass our manifestation? I mean, when it comes to manifestation, not to spiritually bypass our shadow work and the deep healing work. This is something that I feel is not talked about enough um, in our current New Age manifestation field. It's not talked about enough that we need to start doing shadow work around things like money, around things like shame around money, around things like all of this stuff that people don't, they don't really talk about it. And one of the ways that you can start to begin the process is just listing out ways that your ancestors all gave, like whether it's your grandmother, whether it's your, you know, whoever, great grandmother, great grandfather gave without receiving, and start to really dig in deep on that. All right. Because here's what's happening. You confuse service with suffering. 2, you're afraid to own your power. And a lot of what I'm saying here, I'm working through myself. I have worked through a lot of it. I'm still working through some of it. So I'm doing like a lot of this stuff with you right here. Um, this is stuff that it's very hard. It's very hard to own the aspects of, if I charge, I'll be too much. But here's the thing that I hear. What happens when you give too much? What happens when you get afraid of your own power? Power is sacral chakra. Power is sacral chakra. Power, being within your power. A lot of people feel their power within their gut, their lower intestines, which is exactly where their sacral chakra is. It's also where the top part of their womb is, their womb energy. Your womb energy, if you identify as a woman, womb energy, it's a lot of that stuff. So that's where shame resides. That's where like a lot of the ego and all of that stuff resides in that aspect. So you need to own your power. When you say, I'm going to charge $5,000 for this, this, and this, I'm like, okay, here is the clearing aspect, and it is, and I'm going to say it right here and there. It is 5,000. It's 5,555 to work with me for 3 months, and really start doing giving you the blueprint and giving you all of these tools and things that you need, and me on top of me clearing you, on top of me like going into your space, your energy, and say it right then and there. A lot of people I found that they have issues saying that they charge that much. And I want to ask you, why is that? And if you are afraid of charging too much, why is that? There's a fear of rejection and a fear of visibility that happens there. So, there's a ton of things that you can do to combat that, like dancing to loud music, stating your fees out loud, repeating your fees in the mirror every day, not rehearsing. You're not rehearsing anything. You're stating it, right? That's also working the throat. That's also working the throat chakra. The throat chakra, communication. In business, this represents your marketing communications, like speaking engagements, all that stuff. If you can't specifically say, look yourself in the mirror and say, like, I charge $5,555 to work with me for 3 months. And this is what we do in these 3 months. This is what we do. I meet you where you're at. I do an energetic clearing on you. I do a scan, and then I do a clearing if we need clearing, and you talk to me. You talk to me. And we work together We work together and create a plan for you. And this is the 3-month process. And while I do think my work is invaluable, it's $5,000. Now, if you want a one-off session with me, one-off sessions I don't always recommend, but one-off sessions are $222, and you can do that with me, and you can do a one-off session with me and let me scan your chakras and figure out what you can do to work together. And, if you want to book more sessions after that, that's great. That's up to you. But, you can, it's great. It's up to you. But, I'm $222 an hour. That's it. So, and if you can't look somebody in the eye and say that, like, I would also look into your money story. Another thing, 3, self-worth, and this was a big one that I had to go through, right? I had to go through my own self-worth journey. There is it's the belief of who am I to charge for my divine gifts and spirit imposter syndrome, all that stuff, solar plexus chakra, the wounding in the solar plexus chakra, the blocks and the wounding is usually resulted in a lot of imposter syndrome, not feeling good enough, not being worthy enough to charge for all these gifts. Hold on. So you can visualize a future, a radiant version of you, which is what I've done. But again, it's not addressing the shadow aspect. Why do you feel like you're not worthy? And not just addressing it, integrating it. Saying to yourself in the mirror, I feel worthless. You don't, here's the thing that I have a lot of stuff to say about affirmations, right? I have a lot to say about that. I have a lot to say about like things like affirmations because yeah, affirmations can do a world of good for a lot of people. Affirmations can do so much good, and I have seen affirmations do good for people. Yes, they do work, but as Debbie Ford said in the book, The Dark Side of Light Chasers, I highly recommend that book if you have not read it yet. Please read it. The Dark Side of Light Chasers. Okay? She literally says, this is a quote. This is a literal quote. I am affirmations are like putting ice cream on poop. It's like putting ice cream on poop. It's going to feel good for a while, but then you start tasting the poop. I hate to put that crass analogy there, but that's what it is. That's what it is. You're not addressing the actual issue. You're bypassing. And I really wish more people would talk about this aspect of affirmations being really bypassing, and they don't work for the most part. They don't really work. They don't really work for the most part. Yeah, does your mind believe it after a while? Of course it does, but like it's here's the thing. You aren't going to get to the bottom of what you want to get to the bottom of by just saying I am worthy. So what you should do instead is saying I am worthless in the mirror. I want you to look in the mirror and say I'm worthless. And you'll feel a charge in you. You'll feel that charge. You'll feel that negative charge. You'll feel all of that shit line up in you. And you'll be like, I am worthless. And this is something I had to do. I am worthless. I am worthless. I'm worthless. And then you should feel a release. And now this might be a little bit advanced for a lot of people. This part of shadow work might be advanced. So if you're not ready to say like that, I would recommend starting out with, a little bit of a lighter exercise for you, which would be, you could visualize and say like what things could be for you, but and then just dive deep into why do you feel like you can't charge, and just digging in a little bit deeper. What makes me think that I can't charge my worth? What, and then list out like traits and words and all that. That's like the first part of that. And then you can go and look yourself in the mirror and just say, all that. And coming from a healing place instead of a less than empowered place, right? Less than empowered place, less than a healing place, all of those little aspects of yourself that you may have felt like you couldn't do, right? You may have felt like you couldn't, be a part of. So that's what I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about. Like this, it's not about why do light workers, it's real, why do light workers feel like they can't charge? It's really because you guys aren't doing the real work inside of you. Some of you may be charging $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $2,000, $1,500, $200 to work with you for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. I don't know. And you may be doing all of this. You may be doing all this work. But the problem is that you may be doing all this work, but the problem is that if you are still not getting clients, there's inner work involved. And a lot of that inner work is shadow work. Okay? A lot of that inner work is shadow work. And that is where I want to end with. It's shadow work, it's healing work, it's wounded energy. It's you not integrating. And it's you creating like this life. We're all creators. I'm a big fan of Dolores Cannon's work. We are here to work with energy. We're master manifestors. Every single one of us is a master manifestor. Not one person on this planet isn't a master manifestor. We have to remind ourselves of that power. We really have to remind ourselves of that power. And once we remind ourselves of that power, we are able to step into all of this newness and see things with new eyes, new open eyes into things that we can now do because we don't have that thing holding us back anymore. We don't have that, monkey over our shoulders when we're saying, hey, I'm going to charge $5,000, but wait, there's this monkey on my back saying that I can't. We need to address that. We need to address that monkey on our back. We need to address that thing and learn to love it. We have to address the anger and all of these things first before we can really do all that stuff. And, it's all of what I had to learn to. I had to learn to love the dragon and think that the dragon is cool. I had to learn to love the dragon. You have to learn to love your dragon. You have to learn to integrate the dragon inside of you. That dragon that's up your spine and coming in. Learn to tame it. Because it can be a beast and you can let it go. It's not that you can't transmute that dragon. It's not that you can't transmute it. You can. You can transmute the dragon. It's that you have to learn, that you have the power to do that. And with that being said, we are at the 20-minute mark. I do want to keep these short. So if you feel called to work with me, work with me whether it's, what on a level where you feel like you can grow and learn and really work with your chakras, work to integrate your shadow in your chakras, work with all of these things that in your mind, your body, your spirit. I can definitely help you with that. You can book a LumiFlow call with me, a diagnosis call where I scan your chakras, see where you're at, build you a roadmap of your healing process, and create this whole plan for you. And you can do the plan with whatever you want with it. It's up to you. And there is there is a chance for you to explore a possible mentorship with me. So if you want to do that, go ahead. Their link is in the description box. Check that out. Otherwise, it's so great to be with you here today, to be with you and to spread my love and energy to you guys. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. And until next time, take very good care of yourselves. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. Take very good care of yourselves, guys. Bye.